Hey guys, and welcome to Smite Tactics. My name is Jaggerus, and today we are kicking off our beginner deck series on this channel in the lead up to the release of Chinese. I want to get some beginner decks out for all the new players who've been coming into the game. And we're going to be starting things off with a Zeus deck, so beginner Zeus. And this deck is kind of like a beginner version of the deck that I did last week, the monkey taunting deck. This is kind of a beginner taunting deck, and it only has one monkey in it. And that's actually the only crafted card in this deck. Every other card is a starter card, and that is the Chaofeng, and we've only put one of them in this deck. Ideally, you would run two. You could run two Chaofengs and one Brute, but because we're trying to do very beginner-centric, we're really kind of minimizing the crafted cards. If you don't have Chaofeng, you can always run another Blink, for example. Alternatively, some more mid-range monsters like a Basilisk or Charge for utility or Fist of the Gods for utility. There are definitely other cards you can kind of tech in, or even Sentry Ward if you want to pinch your opponent's cards. But anyway, so this is the deck. So it's very Taunt-centric, and Taunt is a ability where if you play a card that has Taunt, all adjacent units have to attack the Taunt unit. They can't attack anything else. They can't move away, and they can't use their abilities. If there's two Taunt units, they can choose who they attack. And you can see here we have the Brute, which is a 3-cost 1/4 with Taunt. We have a Chaofeng, a 2/4, 4-cost with Taunt, and Athena, who is a 6-cost with Taunt. Now, one of the ways you can counteract Taunt, or utilize Taunt, is with Blink, which allows you to move a friendly unit 3 tiles, or an enemy or a friendly unit up to 3 tiles away. So if you blink a Taunt unit away from you, then that's a counter to it. Alternatively, here you can use Blink to bring units in. Blink is just kind of a very useful card, and it's free. We have Fire Imp, which is 2/1, that's for the early game, and this has Charge, which means it can be used in the early game straight away, the turn that it's summoned, to deal damage. And we have Sunder, deal 2 damage to a non-leader enemy. So Fire Imp is kind of like a backup Sunder, because you can always spawn the Fire Imp and then use it to deal 2 damage in the same way as a Sunder would. Marksman is a ranged 1/2, so this is an early game kind of presence. So we want kind of early mid-game present. So we've got minions for the early game, Brontes as well, he's a 3/3, and we'll go over Divinity once we're into a game. Similarly, then into the late game, we start to get our gods. We have Aphrodite, we have Hades, and we have Athena, who I mentioned previously. And we also have Spartan, which is a minion, but that's kind of a later game minion. So let's jump into a game, and I'll kind of show you guys how this deck works.
Today I fight not for Olympus, but for myself. These immortals must be shown the order of things.
Okay, so we can see we're going up against Hades, and Poseidon. And Poseidon is because I got a Hades here. Poseidon is the other the other leader, sorry, for the Greek deck. He's a melee unit, whereas I'm ranged, and his ability, he drops whirlpools that deal 1 damage to each unit. There's 2 whirlpools vertically, and it deals damage again if they're standing in it at the end of the next turn. We're going to mulligan Aphrodite and Hades because these are, you know, mid-game cards, and we want early game cards for our mulligan. We can hold on to Fire Imp because he's a useful early game card. And you can see here we got Sunder and Brute. So at the moment, you know, Fire Imp and Sunder are kind of more utility-based cards, for example. So these we don't really need until he's done something. Similarly, Brute we can't play because we don't have enough mana. We start on 2 and get 1 more as each round goes on. So what we're going to do here is we're going to use Zeus's ability. Zeus's leader ability, he can play any turn. It costs 2 mana. He spends 2 mana and he draws a card. We're not going to move any closer to the enemy because, you know, we want him to come towards us. If he wants to attack us, he's got to get closer. So we don't want to make it easy for him. Although we're ranged, we could move closer and hit him. We don't want to do that, so we're just going to use our ability. And you can see we drew a second Brute, which is really useful for early game control. And we're going to end our turn. And I feel like that's a smart strategy because it kind of forces him, like I say, it forces him to come to us. We're not making his turn any easier. And he's actually considering running away rather than, you know, coming closer. So there you can see Poseidon's ability. You know, we don't want to end the turn standing on this, basically, because it does damage. What we're going to do, we're going to move forward. Let me see how close can he come. He can come to here. We're actually going to move left, I think. We're going to move left a little bit. I want to get closer to him, but I don't want to get close enough that he can dump a taunt unit on me. But actually, we're going to move forward, and we're going to use that ability again to draw a card. We don't really want to be summoning things yet, because we have clear for when he summons things. And if we can get a big hand, you know, that's going to give us an advantage. If he was playing more aggressively, I would start summoning things. But because he hasn't come towards me, I'm going to hold off. And don't forget, if you do have 2 spare mana, instead of attacking with your unit, drawing a card is pretty goddamn useful. As you can see here, we have a handful now of cards that we can start summoning. And there's the taunt. So that's why I didn't particularly want to come towards him. But, you know, ultimately it's actually fine, I think, because we can summon our own taunt. Just thinking what the best way to do this is. We can clear him with these units. I can't see how much mana I have. I have 4. Okay. We can clear him with the Fire Imp and with Sunder, but I'm not convinced we necessarily want to do that. So I think what we'll do is we'll summon our own taunt here, and then we will attack this taunt unit, because we may as well deal damage to it. We'll only take 1 in return. Like so. We will also Sunder it, so it's only got 1 health, and then it's very easy to deal with it on the next turn. And then he still has to deal with our unit, which is good. So, in terms of card effects, you can see these two have Divinity. Divinity, gain +1, +0. So what Divinity does is these effects trigger on these cards if they're out on the board when you summon a god. So, for example, cards which have this god line, you can see there, it says god. So, if I have these on the board and I play Hades, this guy will gain 1 damage, this guy will gain 1 health. So you want to ideally play these before you start playing your gods, though you don't have to. You'll also notice there that he actually stunned me, my brute, before he attacked it. And in stunning the brute, what that actually does is the brute then can't retaliate. So you'll notice they didn't take return damage. Okay, so we are still in a good position here. He's spawned another brute. We can then dump our own here. We've got 2 mana left. So what we're going to do is we're going to clear his taunt unit ourselves with Zeus. We'll just clear this one so it's no longer there, because, you know, having both of them is annoying. And then we're going to summon our Marksman with the 2 remaining mana here. Now, we can't use our leader ability because we attacked. So you can choose to use your ability, or you can choose to attack. You can't do both. However, you can move. You can move and use your ability, or you can move and attack. But you have to move first. You can't attack and then move, or use your ability and then move. And here we'll end our turn. So you'll notice we have board advantage in that we have the 2 units out, and he only has the 1. On top of that, in hand, you know, we've got even more taunt. We're kind of keeping that taunt presence out, which is nice. And just trying to kind of get control of the board. I'm not hugely worried here. I spawned this Marksman in the wrong place. That was a misplay. I spawned my Marksman next to his taunt unit, which means I can't then gain range on this unit, which is really annoying. That was a mistake by me, and I shouldn't have done that, but it's not the end of the world, because I can still clear this brute on my next turn, so I'm not too worried about it. What we can effectively do is use the Fire Imp to deal damage, and use the Zeus to deal damage, and then use this brute to deal damage, and then eventually deal with it. In fact, I don't even have to now, so this is actually really good. So what we're going to do here is we're going to deal damage to the brute. I'm wondering if we actually leave the taunt and maybe try and deal with the Brontes instead. I actually think that's probably a better plan. So we'll move our Marksman. Are we going to summon a god this turn? Yeah, I think we will. I think we will. Oh, but I can't move my Marksman because this guy's in the way. What is the best way to do this? Okay, we'll play Hades here. So Hades is not taunted. And Hades is a god whose ability is it has initiative, which means he can use his ability on the turn that he's summoned. We'll then use his ability on this unit here to fear it, so it runs away. And then on the next turn it's rooted, which means that it cannot move. We then have 1 mana left. We can summon our Fire Imp, which you'll see here. We're going to trade this Fire Imp into this taunt unit. Like so, because he has charge, which means he can attack on the turn he's summoned. We're going to take 1 damage from the taunt unit on Zeus, because we don't want to really take damage on our brute, because our brute is taunting Poseidon, so we'd rather take the damage on our leader. And then we're going to use our Marksman, who's gained +1 damage because we summoned Hades, to deal damage to Poseidon. We're not too worried about Brontes because Brontes is rooted, so he can't move on the next turn. And then we can use our range units to take him out, should we need to. At which point we'll end our turn.
There are some who will never...
So unfortunately, because of the position of our units, it's allowed him to get a taunt in a really, you know, good position for himself. Which means that these units now have to attack. They now have to attack Athena. However, what we can do is we can always taunt Athena ourselves if we use our own Athena. But actually, I think what I'll do is I'll move my... I can't move him close enough. So I can summon my Spartan. Spartan Aura gives all friendlies shield 1. So all nearby units gain a shield, which we can do like this. So these guys now take 1 less damage, which means if we do attack the Athena, you know, we're going to take 1 less return damage, which is actually quite good. We'll also spawn our Marksman back here, where he's nice and safe. And he also got a shield, which you can see, though we can't use these units this turn. We can attack Poseidon with the Brute. And actually, we're going to move the Brute over here so that these are both taunted, because by doing that, what it means is that this turn, this unit shouldn't be able to move until he deals with this. So we'll then attack Poseidon. Like so. Oh shit! Oh, I misplayed because I forgot that if he moves away from the aura, he doesn't get the taunt. Oh, that was dumb. And then I think we're just going to deal damage to Athena with our units. We do still have unit control. That was dumb. I forgot that if I move away from the aura that he doesn't get in the bonus. So I should have stayed there and attacked. But it's still not the end of the world. Her Athena's only 2-2. And we still have, you know, a large advantage on the board. Which is nice. It just goes to show you, you know, everyone makes mistakes. But you've got to identify your mistakes. So there the mistake was moving the unit without realizing that it was going to lose its aura. Similarly, a mistake we made earlier was we obviously summoned a unit next to a taunt, when ideally you don't want to summon them directly next to taunt, because then you can't move them and stuff. It gives you less options. The other thing to note is we have another Spartan. And we can actually summon him and then, you know, have double the shield aura, which is pretty nice. On the next turn, which means that, you know, it's going to get tough for him to start dealing with monsters because they're taking far less damage. One thing to note if you are new is that you can't have 2 gods on the board. So I can have 2 minions. I can have both Spartans out, for example, or both Marksmen out. But I can't have both Athenas out. I can only have 1 Athena because she's a god. You know, you can't have 2 of a god. That just seems silly. So that's something to be aware of. And you'll notice there that guy, he took no damage there because of the shield. So Athena, she can teleport, and wherever she lands, the adjacent units take a damage. But because of the shields, they didn't take damage. Okay, so this is getting pretty nasty, basically. The good news is we can actually fear the Enyo for the next turn, so then we don't have to deal with her straight away. So, what have we got in hand? We've got our own Athena. I think what we'll do is if we fear the Enyo, we can then summon an Athena, which is pretty nice. Alternatively, we can play Spartan and Brontes and save... Actually, I think that's maybe smart. So we'll use our ability and fear the Enyo, who will then run away, and get rooted. At which point we can summon our own Athena... Yes, we'll summon our own Athena here, taunting these 2 units. And in doing so, you'll notice that this guy got a bonus damage. Right? So he now has bonus damage, which is pretty nice. Which we can then use. I'm wondering if we take out... Yeah, I think we have to take out the Athena, because we don't want this guy to take retaliation damage. Although we do need to move him, because he's standing on a whirlpool, so it's kind of annoying. So we'll move him to here... and attack this Athena. We can then use this unit, moving him to here. So he's not on the whirlpool either, but still gets the adjacent aura to attack the Brontes. So he's now down to 2 health. And then we can use our Zeus to attack the Enyo from range. So if we attack the Brontes, we would have taken return damage of 3, but because Enyo's far away in melee, she won't return damage to us. And we will then... end our turn. I mean, the alternative is we could have drawn a card with our god power. And that one, like, I wanted to deal damage to the Enyo because she's something that you really have to deal with. She's a 5/4. Well, she was a 5/5. So this is a problematic card. The fact that we don't have to deal with her that turn was simply because of the fear on Hades. Though you can see there, he just teleported her in. Adjacent to me. And I think he's maybe just going to try and rush me down. He played Deathbringer. No good. Oh, he can't because of the taunt. The taunt stopped him from rushing me down. So you'll notice there he used the teleport card. That's kind of like Blink, but it's specific to this one unit. And he's teleported the Enyo next to me. He then used Deathbringer on the Enyo, which meant that she doubled her damage and then hit me. And I now have 1 health. However, I have a lot of units. So maybe it will be okay. We'll see. I'm going to have to basically do some thinking here. Use my noggin, effectively. If we can take out the Enyo, we should be okay. But he's got his leader ability. But he's taunted. So long as we can keep him taunted, he can't use his leader ability. Okay, right. Let me think about this. So we're going to use the Marksman to take out this Enyo. We have to do that. So Enyo is dead. That's Enyo dealt with. This guy is now taunting us up at the top, and he's got 4 health, so we're going to need to deal with him as well. So I think what we'll do is spawn an extra taunt next to Poseidon. The reason we're spawning this extra taunt is that we want to kind of keep him as taunted as possible. We're then going to move our Athena with her god ability to here, so then both of these are then taunted. Okay, next what we can do is summon a Spartan here, which gives all of these guys an extra aura. So this Spartan now has an aura, and this Spartan has an aura, which means if I attack this guy, they won't take return damage. So we can then actually clear this guy, like so. Next we want to move me away, just in case. Basically, we're just going to try and get away from here. And we're actually, I'm thinking we attack this flag, because this flag he can spawn things next to. So if we attack the flag with these two, that's now cleared, and he's got all these taunt minions surrounding him. So hopefully, if he can't deal 1 damage to me, we should then be able to use all of these units to damage him next turn. But we'll see. I mean, he might have something in his hand, like a teleport or something, that lets him get away from the taunts. And that's why, you know, we included the blink in our hand, for example, because it's really useful. Because I have 1 health. Fortunately, I'm also, you know, taking 1 less damage because of these shields, which is really nice. And if we can draw Aphrodite, who's another god, that would be really good as well, because then, you know, all of our ranged units will then get buffed. All of the units with divinity, which is a pretty big deal. The fact that he's taking this long to play makes me think that he can't kill me, but we'll see. Yeah, so he's spawned RGs, but RGs is now taunted by Chaofeng, and that's why we position these units like this, so that no matter where he summoned a unit, he wouldn't be able to summon anything which wasn't next to a taunt. And this is basically, we're doing this to protect Zeus, because they have to summon these taunt units. And all in all, this is looking pretty good. Right, how much damage do we have? Let's see if we have lethal first and foremost. 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. We have lethal, ladies and gentlemen. Right, let's not mess this up. So, attack. 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 Did I attack with him already? No, attack! And we win! Oh! The fact that he had a 10-3 Enyo and the shield is what saved my life is very, very satisfying. But that just goes to show you the power of a beginner deck and what you can do with a beginner deck. And how you have to kind of really think. And I think actually the Greek decks are the most tactical ones to play. They definitely require the most kind of thinking. And even with a couple misplays, we managed to grab victory. And yeah, that was with 1 crafted card, you guys. So he played Legendary Enyo. He has the Legendary Leader Poseidon. We don't need Legendaries. We still win. And that's more or less it for the beginner deck. I hope you guys kind of figured out, you know, how Taunt works, how Divinity works, and how you want to play your units kind of tactically. You know, you want to think about where you position your Taunt units, in which order you play your cards to get that Divinity bonus, and, you know, how you can move your ranged units and melee units, and where to position things like your Spartan, for example. You saw there I misplayed it and lost a Taunt unit as a result. Try not to do that. But yeah, that's been the beginner Zeus deck. And next week, let me know if you want to see beginner Odin or beginner Ra. We'll try and do these beginner decks on Mondays, basically, in the lead up to the Chinese pantheon coming out, which is happening in a couple weeks. In terms of my more advanced decks, they go up on a Thursday. You can see a more advanced Taunt Greek deck if you check out my Taunting Monkeys video, which was the most recent deck guide to go up. So for more advanced decks, they're also on the channel. Beyond that, you can catch me live streaming on Twitch, twitch.tv/Jaggerus, and you can follow me on Twitter @Jaggerus. And if you've enjoyed the content, maybe subscribe. Thanks for watching, have a great day, and I'll catch you next time. Bye!